So we are continuing our study of the Acts of the Apostles, and today we will be beginning at the 27th verse of the 27th chapter, where we read this. On the 14th night, we were still being driven across the Adriatic Sea, when about midnight the sailors sensed they were approaching land. They took some soundings and found that the water was 120 feet deep. Short time later, they took soundings again and found it was 90 feet deep. Fearing that we would be dashed against the rocks, they dropped 4 anchors from the stern and prayed for daylight. In an attempt to escape from the ship, the sailors let the lifeboat down into the sea, pretending they were going to lower some anchors from the bow. Then Paul said to the centurion and soldiers, "Unless these men stay with the ship, you cannot be saved." So the soldiers cut the ropes that held the lifeboat and let it drift away. I've shared before, I know I'm redundant. I just love the wording, the wordsmithing, the word use from Luke, and how the details that he gives. I mean, he's painting a picture that I can almost put myself in that space. So for 14 days, those aboard the ship have experienced what seems like a nightmarish eternity. 14 days. It becomes so bad and desperate that the ones in charge of operating the ship, the sailors, pretended to do one thing in order to hide the fact that they were getting ready to abandon the ship. That'll preach, really. Those having responsibility for the survival of others and the cargo, abandoning ship, leaving others just to fend for themselves. I mean, they're sailors, and they see the situation, and they're saying, I don't know about you, we're out. You know it's bad when those that know the situation have given up hope. So what does Paul do? He tells the centurion and the soldiers, "You better stop them or we're doomed." That's my translation. As I shared, I'm a word guy. And so I look at the words and the text, and what appears to be a contradiction always forces me to pause and dig a bit deeper and ask, really, what am I reading? What am I reading? And you'll recall last week that Paul previously said this, starting at the 21st verse. "Men, you should have taken my advice not to sail from Crete." Duh. "Then you would have spared yourself this damage and loss. But now I urge you to keep up your courage, because not one of you will be lost. Only the ship will be destroyed. Last night, an angel of the God to whom I belong and to whom I serve, stood beside me." Last night, an angel of the God to whom I belong and whom I serve stood beside me and said, "Do not be afraid, Paul. You must stand trial before Caesar, and God has graciously given you the lives of all who sail with you. So keep up your courage, men, for I have faith in God that it will happen just as he told me." Paul receives a word from God. I love the word choice, the translation, to whom he belongs and serves. He receives the word from the one whom he belongs and serves, that no one on board will be lost. But yet and still you have sailors that are getting ready to abandon the ship. Paul says to the centurion, "Unless these men stay on the ship, we cannot be saved." So on the one hand, God has given Paul a word. It's going to be all right. On the other hand, Paul sees what's happening and is like, you better keep them on board or we're doomed. One theologian, Tim Keller in particular, many theologians, but Tim Keller in particular calls this situations like this a paradox. A paradox, something that on first blush, first reading, it seems like a contradiction. On the one hand, Paul has certainty that everything, I got a word from God. Everything is going to be all right. Trust and believe. It's going to be fine. But at the same time, he's observing what the sailors are doing, and he tells the centurion and the troops, you better keep these guys on the boat or we're doomed. So begs the question, what, does God need a hand? I thought this is a God that's all powerful, all knowing. He just, hey, I could just calm the sea. It's like there's no problem. But here's a fancy word alert, compatibilism. Compatibilism. It's that theological belief that God works through, not separate from our free will. That God works through, not separate from our free will. The choices are ours, but they are also part of God's overarching plan. Think of the story of Joseph in Egypt, thrown in the pit, sold into slavery, thrown into prison. But at the same time, in due time, he was elevated to be Prince of Egypt and an archetype, if you will, of a savior that was in a position to provide food and to save many. And so average person might conclude, well, since it all worked out the way it did, no harm, no foul, right? It's all good. That the behavior of his brothers, the ends justified the means. See, in other words, hey, that I didn't do that, but it all worked out, right? That would be simplistic and that would be wrong. As Genesis 50:20 reads, as Joseph was responding to the behavior of his brothers, you intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. The fulfillment of God's will does not relieve us of our individual responsibility. Because God is God, he knows the end before there's a beginning. And just because his will is going to be accomplished, that doesn't relieve us of our responsibility. So what's the application? When it comes time, especially with communities of faith, it's incredibly important that we are unified and on the same page in terms of our actions and purpose. And at all times, doing the things that we know that God calls us to do. God's will be done. But how are we going to navigate in that space? Are we going to be obedient to God? So this means at least three things. We have to know him. That helps. We have to know him. We have to listen to him. And we have to respond to him. So all three of these, we have to know him, we have to listen, and we have to respond. And all three are necessary if we're to achieve what God desires us to achieve. And again, you can trust that if we don't praise him, so to speak, the rocks are going to cry out. God demands praise. So that's an obligation on our part. God demands praise. God demands praise. Well, if I don't praise, well, the rocks are going to take my place. Do you want that? Do you want that? The choice is ours, whether we want to be part of the plan or not. See, Paul is in a relationship with God, and a messenger from God came to him, gave him the message, assuring him that God, everything is going to be okay. So what does that mean for us? How do we respond to life's situation? How is it tied to who or what we put our trust in? Or as the world would say, who's your daddy? Who do you put your trust in? Who do you serve? You've heard me repeat the lyrics before. Deacon Josh is not here, so he'll have to listen to the recording. But he knows the song well by Bob Dylan, 1979. You may be an ambassador to England or France. You may like to gamble. You might like to dance. You may be a heavyweight champion of the world. You might be a socialite with a long string of pearls. But you're going to have to serve somebody. Yes, indeed. You're going to have to serve somebody. Well, it may be the devil or it may be the Lord, but you're going to have to serve somebody. And Paul says, the God to whom I belong and whom I serve. The God to whom I belong and to whom I serve. Verse 33. Just before dawn, Paul urged them all to eat. For the last 14 days, he said, you have been in constant suspense and have gone without food. You haven't eaten anything. Now I urge you to take some food. You need it to survive. Not one of you will lose a single hair from his head. After he said this, he took some bread, gave thanks to God in front of all of them. Then he broke it and began to eat. They were all encouraged and ate some food themselves. Although there were 276 of us on board. Altogether, there were 276 of us on board. When they had eaten as much as they wanted, they lightened the ship by throwing the grain into the sea. The things that Paul has experienced, 14 days. The things that you've experienced, 14 days, 14 months, 14 years, seemingly a never-ending tapestry that's being woven. You can bet, you can be guaranteed, you can rest assured it is for our edification, but it's for his glory. Everything that we are experiencing is for our edification, but for his glory. Paul encourages, you see the text, he encourages everyone to eat. Again, this Luke detail. It's not just practical, but it shows faith in God. If I knew that this is it, it's like, hey, I'm not, I don't have an appetite. I'm getting ready to die. What do I need food for? But Paul is like, no, let's eat. Let's eat. You haven't eaten for 14 days. You've been worried. I'm telling you, everything is going to be all right. But if I'm certain that there's a future beyond the present situation, I'm going to live and I need to eat, and it's going to be to his glory and honor. And again, these simple things that aren't simple, these little acts of faith, just those little acts of faith, taking food. Hey, look, I know it looks bad. It looks bad. I'm not denying what it looks like, but go ahead and eat because it's going to be fine. Again, I shared this story before, I share now. In the Southside Park Clubhouse, the little simple acts of faith where we are sitting in space where it looks bad. It looks like me and Sister Meeks and nobody else sitting in this space, and it looks bad. But we act not on what we see, but in whom we believe. My faith isn't in numbers, or my faith is in him. And if I have a relationship with the one whose I am, who he's mine, I am his, we got this. We got this. Lord, I may not see or understand what's being worked out, but since I have a relationship in you, I trust you. I trust you. I appreciate John's testimony. It's just like nothing can dissuade me from my faith in Jesus Christ. I've experienced too much. I know too much. I know what he's capable of doing. So Paul is telling these folks to eat and to be confident, not just because I understand or see it, but because he said it. You're going to be fine, Paul. Every one of you are going to be fine. So in this archetypal echo of Jesus and his last meal with his disciples, Paul gives thanks for the bread, breaks it, eats, shows his faith and trust in God that everybody's going to survive. Took some bread, he gave thanks, and he ate. See, again, his faith is on display. His faith is on, they are seeing him. Oh, man, this guy, how many times in your situation, again, I've challenged others, particularly when it comes to social media, when it comes to how we respond to the world's conditions. If the world is nibbling at its fingernails and they're concerned about this, that, and the other, if we share that concern and we're nibbling at our fingernails, well, what separates us? How is our faith different from their faith? Their faith is in the economy. Their faith is in politics. Their faith is in their job. Their faith is in whatever. And we're equally screwed. Whose are we? And again, true faith in the middle of crisis doesn't mean I ignore the storm. It means trusting God. I know the storm. It's like you've been through storms. I know you've been through storms. I've been through storms. Your how you react in the face of those storms displays our faith. Again, I share before, I share now. Our faith is theoretical until it's lived out. It's just theoretical. Oh yeah, I know you can do anything, but I'll behave as if you can't do anything. Sister Meeks should be ashamed, or not ashamed. She'd be sorry she's married to me. But we were on a trip to a long time ago, years ago, close to 20 years ago. We're on a trip to Louisiana, and talking about faith. And we were in one of those, not the 737s or the bigger planes, but, the ones that seat about 60. And, they kind of, for those of you that know planes and all, they kind of bounce along just on the normal. And so the pilot came on the speaker and it said, somewhere over Louisiana, he announced, he said, we're going to experience a bit of turbulence, but it's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. And everything was fine until it wasn't. We hit a bump, a little air pocket or whatever, and the person across the aisle from us screamed out, yelled out, "Ah!" Sister Meeks thought that was funny. She laughed. She had a good laugh. Then we hit another bump. She was screaming. She was white knuckling that seat in front of her. Guy was looking at her like, "Can you get your hands off my seat, please?" And she remarked later, she said, "Well, why were you calm during that?" It's like, turbulence, hey, I can get upset stomach or headache or anything with the best of them. But the pilot said, this is what's going to happen. This is what the pilot said. So I was like, oh man, this came out of nowhere. No, he said this was going to happen. But he also said, we'll get through it and we'll be okay. The parallel is obvious. We find ourselves in storms, in situations that seem like a never-ending, it's like it goes on and on and on. But the pilot has assured us it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Doesn't mean we don't go through the storm. Doesn't mean we might even if we're not buckled up, we might even hit our head on the ceiling of the plane. But the pilot said, in this life, you will suffer persecution. That's what the pilot said. That's what the pilot said. So don't be surprised. Verse 39, I'm almost done. When the daylight came, they did not recognize the land, but they saw a bay with a sandy beach. And when they decided to run the ship aground, and where they decided to run the ship aground if they could, cutting loose the anchors, they left them in the sea, and at the same time untied the ropes that held the rudders. Then they hoisted the foresail to the wind and made for the beach. But the ship struck a sandbar and ran aground. The bow struck fast and would not move, and the stern was broken to pieces by the pounding of the surf. The soldiers planned to kill the prisoners to prevent any of them from swimming away and escaping. But the centurion wanted to spare Paul's life and kept them from carrying out their plan. He ordered those who could swim to jump overboard first and get to land. The rest were to get there on planks or on other pieces of the ship. In this way, everyone reach land safely. I am closing. So as the dawn breaks, the crew spots land. They try to steer the ship a certain way, but it strikes a reef and it begins to break apart. This is just like God. Every plan that you think of rescue or survival or whatever, every plan you think, it's like, now seriously, this is the God who speaks things into existence, right? Okay, God, okay, you said everybody's gonna be saved. How about this? Let me suggest this. How about peace be still? That would be good. That's not so bad, you know. Your son did it, you know. You could do this. He didn't do that. Let you run aground, breaks up all the ships, and, well, he did give us floaties. He gives us planks of wood. See, the reason I'm convinced, the reason why God didn't just say, peace be still, because in my sinful imagination, if he said that, then everybody can think, you know what? It's just coincidental. The weather just cleared up. Everything just cleared up, and it just worked out. Oh, weren't we lucky? Weren't we lucky? But Paul had already said, God had already warned, it's like the ship is going to be destroyed, but everybody's going to be saved. What happened? The ship was destroyed, and everybody was saved. We want what we want. God, you know, again, as I joke, and I'm almost done. We joke, but I don't joke. We sing the song, Lord, don't move that mountain. We don't mean that. See, we need to move to that point of where we actually mean what we sing or stop singing it. You know, because when it comes to those mountains, I want the mountain flat as just flat, pancake flat. Just pancake, I'm just too late in the day. I'm tired. I don't want to go through that. But when I step back, I need to shut up now. When I step back and I see where God has taken me, and over the arc of my life, I better understand now, today, than I did yesterday, that the life I'm living is really not mine to live, and it's not about me, it's about him. And so how I react and do the things that I do, as I was sharing even this morning in leadership, it's for you. I want you to see, trust and believe. There are things that I have experienced that I would rather not have experienced. Just call the roll. I know you got a few. I got a few. I got more than a few. I got a list. I got some very hurtful things that I've experienced. But I have shared those with you so you get a window to look through. It's like, oh, that's what faith lived out looks like. Not on paper, but in chubby 3D. It's like, no, I see it. I know he's hurting. I know he's going through. And he's still standing. See, again, Job, that's a wonderful book. But that's theoretical for you until you are Job or Jobafina or whatever. Until you're in that space. Well, that was good for him. No, I don't want to lose all my kids. I don't want to lose all my property. I don't want to lose my business. I don't want to have afflictions, physical afflictions. I don't want any of that. I don't want the last chapter of Job if I can avoid all the other chapters of Job. Yeah, and that's why nobody's writing a book about you. Well, I'm good with that. See, that just shows the sinfulness of us because we're looking about us not about him. When we reach that space where it's like, God, not my will, but your will be done. Pain is pain. Hurt is hurt. Jesus did not want to be crucified. But not my will, Father. Your will be done. I know what I'm supposed to do, and I'm willing to do it. That's the question for us. Do we know what we're supposed to do, and are we willing to do it? Paul said all he was the messenger. He didn't have any magic. I don't have any magic. He didn't have any special tricks, even Felix the cat or anything. He said, a messenger from God said, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. You're going to lose the ship. It's going to be dangerous. But every one of you will be saved. That's the promise for us. Every one of us that have put our trust and our hope in Jesus Christ, we will be saved. We will. We will. How's it going to work out? I don't know. As they say, your book is still being written. It hasn't concluded. We don't know what the last jot and tittle of your book is. What's the last, but it's being written. And how does your book read right now? There are certain books you read, it's like, okay, you give it like a 5-page test or something, maybe even a first chapter test. It's like, nah. Hallmark movies, well, I don't even go there, but a movie is just like 5 minutes. No, this is not going anywhere. I know, no. But then there are others. It's like, no, I need to watch that movie. I need to read that book because I know it's going to be edifying for me as I live my life going forward. Amen.